T Dot, and obviously I'm always joined by Theo. So first and foremost, how you doing, Theo?
I'm good. I'm good. Just saw the watch the end of the Man U Leicester game. Slightly disappointing result for us, but otherwise I'm good. Managed to get an FA Cup final ticket on Saturday, so
Yeah,
absolutely buzzing for that.
buzzing.
Yeah, but yeah, can't complain. I'm good.
Yeah, good, good. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter at From the Shed End, and also on Instagram from the Shed End, with underscores in between each word. So as always, give us a follow, interact with us, comments, and as always, again, we're live. So if you want to join in with the conversation tonight, you can do. You can just send your comments through or your questions throughout the episode, and we'll gladly try and respond to them and get you involved as well. But let's start off in a good place. It's a good place all the time as a Chelsea fan at the moment. So let's start off by talking about the 2-1 win against Manchester City. Tuchel's first game at the Etihad. So let's start with that one. What were your thoughts on that game, Theo?
Yeah, absolutely buzzing with the result. I kind of went into the game thinking, if we get 1 point from this game, it will be considered a successful result. I felt we're playing against a Man City side who wanted to probably win the league at the Etihad on that day. And to be fair, after how it went in the first half, we played relatively well, but they were probably the better team in the first half. They had those, obviously, they scored the goal from a bit of a defensive mistake from Christensen, but he's forgiven with how he's played recently under Tuchel, and quite unorthodox from him in the last couple of months. But he did end up sadly getting injured, which is a bit unfortunate. So that was a bit of a mistake at the back that let having Jesus through, who squared it to Aguero and then to Sterling. And then obviously the penalty, which I thought was a bit soft of a penalty, the Gilmore push on Jesus, but thank God Aguero missed it, and he tried to be quite stylish, and maybe he thought the Premier League title is already wrapped up. Let me just make the most out of this, the champagne on ice on the side. But yeah, luckily Mendy stood his ground and just put one hand out and stopped it. But then just wanted to quickly mention as well, I thought Sterling was relatively lucky to stay on the pitch in the first maybe 10 minutes or
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
We've seen those type of fouls. We've seen reds being given for those type of two-footed challenges. Studs were up quite high up on the
So
ankle.
it's a leg breaker, isn't it? It's a potential
It
leg
is.
breaker. Yeah.
It is. And the pundits on Match of the Day that evening did say that it was worthy of a red card. So I thought City were quite lucky there, but quite unfortunate maybe in the second half with that Zuma foul. I thought that was a clear penalty, so maybe it balances out slightly. But otherwise, second half performance from Chelsea, absolutely superb. I thought the fullbacks were probably won us the game, Alonso and Reece James. Reece James on the right-hand side gave Benjamin Mendy an absolute torrid time. I thought he was literally just having fun with him, and you could see Guardiola's reaction, almost head and hands.
Yeah.
And Alonso getting the winner on the left-hand side, how lethal he can be coming into the penalty box with those type of crosses. So a brilliant performance, and obviously having that last minute winner is felt like snatch and grab, 3 points, and now in a very comfortable place, for top four, maybe a bit less comfortable now that Leicester won tonight, but I think we'll talk about it later. We've got Arsenal next, which I think we'll get the 3 points. I would hope we get the 3 points. So yeah, good time to be a Chelsea fan, especially on Saturday night.
Yeah, and I thought it was a brilliant game. I did say before I thought it was going to be really cagey, which it kind of was going in that way. The first 15, 20 minutes of the game, it was really cagey. And I mean, well, let's start from the very, very beginning. One of the things that I've noticed under the two games that we've played against Man City so far, Pep Guardiola hasn't really given us any insight as to what to expect in the Champions League final. That's a big thing, because the two games that we've played, he's rotated the squad completely. He hasn't really shown his cards. We rested Phil Foden again, Kevin De Bruyne in the FA Cup game as well. So it'll be interesting. I mean, we've rested as well. We rotated quite a bit. I think it was probably 4 or 5 changes that we made on the game at the weekend on Saturday. So, but I agree with you. I thought that the wing backs were brilliant. I thought Reece James was brilliant as well. And even Verna. Verna had a really good game. He had so many brilliant chances. He could have had 2 goals at least. 2 or 3 goals. He had some brilliant chances. And I thought Hudson-Odoi as well, when he came in and came into the game, he definitely was instrumental as well. So it's definitely a lot of positives to take out of it for a team that, could have wrapped up the Premier League. I know they've done that tonight, but they could have wrapped it up there and then on that day. But yeah, it's definitely something that we've got to take forward when we play Arsenal. The next couple of games that we've got now as well, we just need to be focused on every game as it comes now. I agree with you, with Sterling. I think that obviously changes the game a lot for City if he goes off. Part of me was thinking, with it being our favourite referee, has he done that in the hope that he can keep Sterling? If he gets a straight red, which it would have been at the time, he's out for the rest of the season, really, isn't he? It's a 3-match ban, I think. So yeah, it's definitely a red card. I don't think anyone who's watched that replay could even go back and say that it isn't. It's a straight red. It's a leg breaker. He should be sent off for that as well. I wanted to touch on Christensen. I know you mentioned him before, and I do feel he was at fault for the goal. I think the way that Tuchel's got us playing at the moment, it's very attacking, very pressing, and that is heavily reliant on your centre backs being switched on for 90 minutes because it is almost a 1v1 a lot of the time when if it's Alonso or Chilwell or whoever at the right side, if it's James or Azpilicueta, Hudson-Odoi, whoever's playing there, the focal point then comes on your centre backs. They've got to be switched on. Do you think there was any more that he could do for that goal? Because it was almost he was almost wrong side of at that time, and obviously he made a fumble and ends up getting injured, and now he's out for the Arsenal game. But could he have done any more to stop that goal, in your opinion?
It's quite a tricky one because I feel like Christensen's been absolutely brilliant since Tuchel's come in. I don't think he's set a foot wrong since maybe that red card against Liverpool earlier in the season. So honestly, as a Chelsea fan, I feel like he is forgiven. And mistakes do happen as a centre back, especially when you're playing a team like Man City who will press you and create those type of chances. I do feel like he was a bit unfortunate. He was kind of wrong-sided and maybe misjudged the ball kind of bouncing near him. If I'm completely honest, I haven't seen too many replays of the mistake. I've mainly focused on kind of what happened next, which was the goal, and obviously the penalty happening very soon after today. But no, I don't think he could have done. It's a bit of a tricky one. Obviously, I feel like maybe if it was an experienced defender like Tiago Silva, maybe back in the day, a John Terry or even maybe a Tony Rudiger, you can maybe feel like they're just clearing that straight away or getting a touch and then clearing it. But we have to remember Christensen's still very young. He's, as I said, he hasn't set a foot wrong really since Tuchel's come in. So I don't really want to kind of point my finger and say, Christensen's at fault for the goal, especially that he did end up getting injured and he's now out, I think, for the next 2 games at least.
Yeah.
I think Tuchel mentioned today he's out definitely for Arsenal tomorrow and potentially the FA Cup on Saturday.
I think they're looking at maybe even up until Villa. I think they said maybe Villa. If they don't want to rush him back, which I understand. We've got a lot of cover, like you mentioned earlier, offline. We've got Zuma who can play there as well. So yeah, I wouldn't rush him back, and it's a shame for him because like you said, he's been really good. He's played a lot of football under Tuchel, and it's worked. He's definitely come on in a development point of view as well. So it'd be a shame for him not be able to, especially like the FA Cup final. I mean, it's a massive game, so I'm sure he'll want to be fit for that. But I wouldn't want to see a 50% Christensen in that game.
No, I agree, and especially now that we've got the option, we saw how good Reece James was against Man City. I would rather play Reece James at right wing back and bring Azpilicueta as one of the 3 centre backs alongside maybe Rudiger and Tiago Silva. So definitely not. I wouldn't risk rushing Christensen back in if he's, as you said, if he's only 50% or not fully fit yet. So no, I wouldn't take the risk either.
Yeah, and it is a shame for him because he, like you say, he's been really good. But let's turn our attention to a team that we're playing, a mid-table team that we're playing, Arsenal. And let's focus on that one because obviously everyone knows it's common knowledge. They've had a really poor season. We should be going into that game with the belief. I know they beat us 3-1 early in the season, but we should be going into that game with the belief that we can beat them hands down at the Bridge.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, based on all of our performances recently, the likes of against Man City, Real Madrid, even Spurs and Liverpool in the last couple of months, we should be winning this game comfortably. But at the same time, we saw it in December. They'd lost about 3 or 4 games on the bounce, and then they beat us 3-1 at the Emirates. And in all honesty, it could have been a lot more that day. It was an embarrassing performance from Chelsea. So we kind of have to stay real. We have to kind of stay fairly kind of. We can be confident, but at the same time, we have to be realistic and think, take one game at a time. And I rather we don't stay too complacent as well. That's the last thing we want to be doing at this kind of business end of the season. So I think if we kind of approach this game like we've approached all of our last couple of games, then we should be winning and we will win. But at the same time, Arsenal do have those players. I like kind of looking at every single team that we play and kind of pointing out some players that can make the difference. The likes of, I'm going to say it, but Willian, he's had a very poor season, but he scored a cracking free kick against West Brom on Sunday, and he's the type of player. Maybe he's got a point to prove playing against his old team. Maybe he won't start, but definitely the type of player that could impact the game. Obviously, Aubameyang and Lacazette, they've scored against us in the past, and they were rested against West Brom too. So yeah, I'm not gonna kind of rule them out completely, but at the same time, I am expecting a win. I think it will be. I'm gonna give my prediction from now, but I think it will be a repeat of the previous result, but in Chelsea's favor this time. So I'm gonna go 3-1 Chelsea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's at the Bridge as well, so I think we'll win it, and I'm expecting quite a cagey game like Man City again, though. But maybe again a couple of squad rotations with the FA Cup in mind on Saturday. I think Havertz will come back in, having not played a part against Man City. But yeah, expecting 3 points.
Yeah, and I do agree. I think there needs to be that rotation in the squad. If I'm honest, I think it's going to be relatively easy for us. I feel Arsenal are not playing for European football. They're obviously safe, and that's not me, being disrespectful to Arsenal. They're not going to get relegated. They're not getting European football, and they haven't got the Europa League final to look forward to now. So I do think a lot of those players have probably already switched off mentally. They had a brilliant game against West Brom, as you mentioned, at the weekend, but I do feel that a bigger test for them, which we're a lot bigger than West Brom. I think they'll have switched off. I feel like Aubameyang done that earlier on in the season anyway. Lacazette's as well. They've been poor going forwards. They're relying on 2 kids in Saka and Smith Rowe to bring the team through. Arteta really doesn't really have a clue what he's doing. There's so much that he's doing wrong there. So I do feel if we lose this game tomorrow, Wednesday, that it'll be a massive defeat. I mean, we don't like to lose to Arsenal anyway. It's a local derby. It's a London derby, so we can't really afford to lose that. But yeah, I think we've had a really good record against them at Stamford Bridge. I'm pretty sure we're unbeaten. I think in probably the last 7 or 8.
Top of my head, last defeat against Arsenal was October 2011, I think, when we lost 5-3.
So it's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be a fair few years ago, and everyone remembers the Hazard goal with Coquelin in sort of spinning around doing 360s. Drogba's had brilliant games against them as well. So we've got enough there. We've got enough depth in the squad, and I've always spoke about depth in the squad for many years, even before Lampard took over, and which we sometimes lacked over the years, but we've got that now. We're able to drop out of Verna, or we haven't even mentioned Olivier Giroud and we have on the podcast. But I mean, in terms of seeing him play football, he hasn't played. Neither has Tammy Abraham. It'd be interesting if one of them two get a feature with like you said, with the FA Cup in mind as well. Be brilliant if it was Olivier, just to rub salt in the wounds of the Arsenal fans. But I agree, there definitely needs to be rotation. We need to, again, Leicester winning tonight proves that we really do need to get 3 points tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I agree about the rotation, and possibly Giroud coming in would be brilliant to see him score against Arsenal again. And also, I think Alonso and Reece James have proved the point again on Saturday that they're not our original starting. They haven't started as the wing backs in our Champions League games recently against Real Madrid. It's always been Aspie and Chilwell, so they've definitely kind of given a bit of a nice headache to Tuchel. I'm here and I'm here as well. I can do a very good job at left wing back and right wing back. Consider me for the FA Cup final, or even against Arsenal. So we've got 4 players that can play wing back, possibly even Hudson-Odoi, who played there a bit around Tuchel's earlier games. So definitely some rotation there could be could be quite a sensible decision as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we had Tino Livramento, is it? I think
Yeah, youngster. Yeah.
Livramento. He was on the bench, I think, on Saturday. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's included at some point tomorrow. I think if he doesn't start, which I doubt he will, I think he might make some sort of appearance. Obviously, Tuchel's seen something in him, and I know he was at the academy game or the development team under 23s, whatever they call it now. He was at that game last weekend or last week, so he's obviously seen something in him that he, has opened his eyes a little bit. So it'd be interesting. I think, like I think it'll be a high scoring game, just because I think Arsenal will be playing Xhaka at left back, and it's just crazy. I just don't understand when they've got Saka who can actually play left back as well. But I'm gonna go 3-0 to Chelsea. Yeah. I think our defense is too solid for Arsenal. We keep clean sheets, and that's one of the things that Tuchel's been able to implement into the team is get the defense playing as defenders should. We've got the goalkeeper that we've been asking for to an extent in Mendy. I just think that Arsenal's just going forward, they're just hit and miss, and I think we'll be too much for them on the day. I don't think they'll be able to deal with the fact that we don't really play for an out-and-out striker as well. And again, we haven't been scoring loads of goals, but I do feel like we'll hit the back of the net 3 times against Arsenal. And if we do, I'll cheer every single one of them with passion and pride.
Likewise.
So 3-0 for me for that one.
But it's funny how you mentioned, we've been very comfortable at the back. I'm trying to think of, the teams that we have conceded against, maybe bar the West Brom game. They've all kind of that defensive mistakes. So I think if Arsenal do get a goal tomorrow, it will be possibly from a set piece maybe, or a defensive mistake. But even set pieces, we seem to defend those really comfortably.
Yeah.
So the more I'm thinking about it, a clean sheet might look more likely than them scoring in a 3-1 win.
I mean, you could be right. It could be Willian. I mean, Willian has got it in him, and he just almost, you can see that happening, can't you? There's a nice free kick curling into the corner.
He's got a bit of confidence now as well after Sunday.
He had confidence when he said he was going to go to Arsenal win the Champions League. He'll be waiting a long time for that one as well. So good game tomorrow. I'm not sure what channel it's on. I think it might be Sky or whatever, but be a brilliant game. Looking forward to it. Obviously, it's Arsenal. We've got to beat them. There's no ifs or buts at all. So brilliant game in midweek, but I'm sure we're all looking forward to. Well, I know you're definitely looking forward to FA Cup final Saturday. Brilliant that you got tickets as well. I mean, that's brilliant stuff as well. So I'm sure you're buzzing about that.
Absolutely buzzing. I was on a work call and I got a message from my friend that he managed to secure me one. And I just saw my phone light up with the message, and I just felt like, just quitting my work call. But absolutely buzzing to I actually calculated it. The last time I saw Chelsea play on the 8th of March, 2020, it would have been 433 days, since I've seen the Chelsea live. So I know some lucky fans saw them around Christmas time, December.
Yeah.
But really, really, really excited. And obviously we had an away trip. I mean, a day trip to Wembley is always a nice occasion.
And it's still quite a big capacity. I'm sure it's 21,000 expected, isn't it? I think so.
10,000 from each team, maybe.
Yeah. So I think it's So I mean, it's still going to. I know it's Wembley. It's going to. It's 90,000 plus seater stadium, but it's still going to feel like getting a match day going to Wembley. I mean, that's just an occasion in itself, anyway. Not just going to Stamford Bridge, but actually going to Wembley to watch the game. So let's talk about the FA Cup final in a bit more depth. So obviously, I'm not sure if you've just watched Leicester against Manchester United. Typical Leicester, they turned up when they needed to. They've done a really good job tonight against Man United, if I'm honest. A weakened Man United team, but nonetheless, they played well. So what's your initial thoughts on Saturday? Are we going to bring the trophy home?
Well, last Friday evening, after watching the Leicester-Newcastle game, I thought this is in the bag for Chelsea. Thought you saw them being 4-0 down. They obviously scored 2 late on, but they lost 4-2, and they looked very, very shaky at the back. So I thought, this is an assured victory for us. But then, obviously, as you mentioned, they played a weakened Man United team this evening. But But then again, maybe the fact that we played tomorrow actually, so they get a day's rest on us. But they did play I think maybe Bar Madison, who was on the bench. That was probably their best starting 11. Um, it's a tricky one because you never know with Leicester. Being the underdogs in an FA Cup final, they may just go all out and really push us to the very end. I can maybe see it going to extra time if I'm honest. Type of game, where
Yeah.
Leicester really push it, maybe get a Vardy goal and we get a goal as well. But as we've mentioned it so many times on this podcast, we've got that depth in our squad. We've got the manager. We've got the defensive abilities now and the goalkeeper. So it's kind of gives you a lot of confidence going into these type of games. But at the same time, I'm expecting a very tricky game, especially after the fact that they're underdogs. They've got Brendan Rodgers as a manager now, who's very experienced, and he probably relishes these type of opportunities as well. Last season, he came so close to scoring top 4, and he obviously failed on last weeks of the season. And he'll want to get a trophy of Leicester. They haven't won a trophy since their Premier League in 2016. This is their chance now, and I think this FA Cup will mean as much as to them as maybe that Premier League. So it's a tricky one, but I think if we, as I said it so many times, we're making these predictions and kind of talking about these type of games. If we just play like the way we have in the last couple of months, and we're just comfortable and reassured at the back and no silly mistakes like maybe Christensen did against City, then I think we'll win it easily. So I'm going to go extra time though, so I'm not going to say it easily actually, but let's go 2-1 to Chelsea after extra time.
I think it won't be an easy game. I don't think any games that we're having at the moment are going to be easy, but I do think defensively we're a lot better than Leicester. And even if I can't remember, I think Vardy's got 1 goal in the last 9-10 games, I think, something like that. So it's obviously been Iheanacho that's been scoring a lot of the goals for Leicester at the moment, but I do think we will win that FA Cup. And I'm very confident that we will. Just knowing, and I don't know if he'll be fit, and if he is in the team, he won't be fully fit with Johnny Evans, which I'm pretty sure he may miss the FA Cup final. He's a massive figure in that defence, and the last 2 Leicester games, well, the Friday game against Newcastle, he was clearly missed. You can tell that he holds the defence together. Even yet today as well, tonight, for Varna and Soyuncu in the back, there was times where it was so shaky, even for the goal, it was so easy for Greenwood. So it's just, I think, and I don't know, I haven't read into how bad or severe the injury is for Johnny Evans. I'm pretty sure he was on crutches the other day on the weekend game, but if he's fit, it's a massive factor for Leicester. He'll be one that they need. But I just think from a Chelsea perspective, we're used to being in this competition. I think 2018, I think was the last time he was in it, I think, in the final, which doesn't really make... Sorry, yeah, when I say I avoid that one, we don't talk about that one. We don't talk about that one. Yeah, so, Leicester haven't... I don't think they've been in it since 1969. I read earlier, something like that. Anyway, it was 1969, and they're not used to winning trophies. Let's be honest, but it's a lot to play for still in the Premier League, and I think that's still one eye for us as well. The Champions League also, but I do think we've got enough quality in us to get that over the line. I just think looking at Leicester attacking, they're not really the Leicester that I think people remember them for when they won the Premier League, or, when Jamie Vardy was in that sensational form, which he was, and, brilliant. They haven't got Kante anymore, who did a lot of work for them, which he now does for us. It's a game that I can't really see Leicester. If we can keep Leicester quiet and we get an early goal, I think their heads will drop. And they've had that really bad spout of, dipping in and out of good and bad form as well. But yeah, I think whichever team we put out, I think we've got enough depth on the bench as well. I mean, I'd love to see Pulisic back in that, in another FA Cup final and playing how he did against Arsenal. The same with Havertz and Verna. It's a bit of a tough one because someone's got to drop out somewhere. We can't play them all. So we've got CH as well that can play there. I think Mason Mount's going to be instrumental. I think he'll be the one that's going to pull the strings. I really do. I think he's by far, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but he's definitely the player for me that has definitely come on leaps and bounds. And we talk about Mason Mount now as a player that must start for Chelsea. If he doesn't start, there's question marks, and there wasn't that, the season previous. So I do think we'll win. Prediction wise, I don't want to insult Leicester, but I think 2-0. I think 2-0. I think it'd be a game where we'll probably try and put it to bed pretty early, and we can concentrate on just seeing the game out, which we will do. I think if we score some early goals, I think defensively, Tuchel's got the team drilled to know how to see games out, which is what we've lacked in the previous, seasons that we've had.
Yeah, I'll stick with my 2-1 for Chelsea, but second goal after extra time. And avoid penalties there.
Yeah. I mean, the dreaded P word. It's not one that I like to use, but it's going to be a good day out for you, I'm sure. Have you got sort of an idea where you'd be sitting, or is it still?
I've actually got no clue yet. I think the tickets are meant to arrive Thursday, but I need to do my COVID test before. I think after Thursday to make sure I can go. So if I test negative, I need to test negative before. But
of course,
yeah, it should be good.
That.
It should be good. Yeah. I'm excited, really looking forward to it, and just having that match day atmosphere all over again. Really excited.
Yeah. And I think as well, if we do win the FA Cup, and one thing I actually wanted to mention actually before I say what I'm going to say, I do feel we've had the easier run to the final than Leicester. So I have to give Leicester that credit, because I'm sure we played Morecambe, Luton, Barnsley, Sheffield United, who were down and out anyway at that point. And obviously our toughest task was Manchester City, whereas Leicester had Stoke, Brentford, Brighton, Manchester United and Southampton. So, they do deserve to be in the final. Not to say that we don't, but they're definitely, a team that can cause big teams, Premiership teams, problems as well.
Yeah, last season I remember our run was really tough to the final. I think it was Nottingham Forest, Hull, Liverpool, Leicester, Man U, then Arsenal in the final. So maybe we have a bit of luck with the draw this season.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, I'm sure it's 20,000 that's there. I'm sure you'll have a negative COVID result, so you'll be there. So yeah, it'll be brilliant. So obviously, the next episode we'll do, hopefully we'll be talking about FA Cup winning Chelsea, and then looking forward to the Champions League, which is another mess as well. I think they're talking about Porto now, aren't they? So
it changes every day.
Yeah,
so it's
better than Turkey, I suppose, isn't it? I think in terms of for fans being able to try and get there anyway. I think, and obviously no one wanted it in Birmingham, so that was ruled out straight away. So let's talk. Obviously, the season's been wrapped up next couple of weeks, so let's talk about our player of the year and who we think deserves that sort of vote as player of the year for Chelsea. So I'm going to let you go first, because I think I've kind of already gave mine already, but I'll let you go first.
I think we're both going to be in agreement with this one, but let me throw some other names into the hat and kind of talk maybe who else can be maybe possible candidates for player of the season. I think huge credit to Edouard Mendy. He's come in, he didn't have a preseason. He came in, I think, late September time, maybe mid-September, and new country, new league, and straight away he looked really solid. I think he made his debut in a cup against Spurs, and straight away he had a penalty shootout, to the face. Yeah. But great keeper. I think he's been really good, and kind of seems to have that stability and kind of presence that we want as a goalkeeper to reassure us fans, which maybe we lacked slightly with Kepa at times. So huge credit to him. Another player which I think deserves a mention is Tiago Silva. Again, great player. He's really helped us at the back with his experience and his quality, and he's even kind of played as a captain from time to time. I think it's worth mentioning Georginio Kante. They've been superb, especially since Tuchel's come in. Once they've stayed clear of suspensions and injuries, they've looked really, really solid and helped us through that kind of those Champions League games against Real Madrid and Porto when maybe Kovacic was injured. But yeah, the one name for me is Mason Mount. I think it's hard not to look past Mason Mount. Obviously when Lampard was was manager at the start of the season until January time, he was performing. He was performing actually really, really well. Maybe he wasn't getting the right number of goals maybe that a player of his caliber should be getting. But I think there's more to that, to his game. His creativity is something that I've been really impressed by this season. Just his confidence as well on the ball, the way he dribbles past players. He just looks like he seems to have bulked up a bit as well compared to last season. When you kind of compare pictures of Mason Mount last season to now, he seems a lot more, physically strong, which is good to see as well, especially in a league like the Premier League. But yeah, just he looks like, you have to remember he's only 22 years old, and people are already calling him the future Chelsea captain, possibly England captain too. He's probably Southgate's the first name that's going to be on Southgate's team sheet at the Euros, and we've seen that in the recent World Cup qualifiers and friendlies that we played in March. I think he played all three of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a favourite of Southgate's as well, and I think he's proved a lot of people wrong, which is what I really like about him this season. A lot of people last season, would say, "Oh, Mason Mount's Lampard's, teacher's pet. He's only starting because he was managed by Lampard at Derby and helped him get to the playoff final." But I think this season he's proved a lot of those people wrong. There's a lot of pundits as well, a lot of kind of Twitter.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah, even myself, honestly, because I remember he hadn't scored in a very long time in the Premier League. I think after that game against Aston Villa last season, I mean, he scored a great goal. Then he went for a period where he hadn't scored in a very long time. I think 3 months until he scored the goal against Everton. And then in a couple of those games, he looked like, that type of player that was on the pitch that did well, but, never maybe, would never reach the heights or potential that we would have hoped. But whereas now he's just absolutely superb. He just, and we saw it. I mean, he didn't start against Man City, but I think Chelsea fans, the first thing they look at when they look at lineups now is, where's Mason Mount? If he's not on the team, he's got to be on the bench. If he's not on the bench, then where is he? And I think that goes to show, the fact he's rested for maybe the games against Arsenal and Leicester in the FA Cup final probably means that he's our most important player. So 100% for me, Mason Mount, player of the season.
Yeah, and I'd be surprised if he, because I think voting's, if it's not closed now, it closes probably midnight tonight. But I'd be surprised if he's not voted Player of the Year for Chelsea this season. I agree with you around the sort of honourable shout outs to Mendy and Georginio and Kante. I'd also probably throw. I've criticised him a lot this season, but Timo Verna as well. I know he's people sort of get onto him, and he's probably not had the best of seasons, but I do think he's still without knowing, I'm sure it's 12 goals he's got this season in all competitions. He's probably got at least 10, maybe even more assists in all competitions as well this season. So I do think he's someone that will obviously do more next season. So I think he would get an honourable shout out for me as well. But I agree, Mason Mount is just, he's definitely put all his doubters to bed. Me being one of them, I was definitely critical of him. It's more so under Lampard, and not because I thought he was the teacher's pet, but more so because I don't think Lampard was getting the best out of him, which is what we're now seeing with Thomas Tuchel. He knows how to get the best out of him, and obviously he's developed as a player and as a person. As he's got older, he's probably, like you said, you can tell he's obviously doing the gym work a bit more now, which is a massive percentage of what you need to do as a footballer. I suppose you need to have that upper body strength. I remember the first sort of season he was in the Chelsea sort of lineup, and he was always on the floor. He was always getting knocked off the ball. He didn't seem strong enough, which he's now looked at that and obviously noticed that he needs to bulk up. He needs to be a bit more stronger. And I agree. Going forwards, he's dangerous with the ball. He's someone that can. He's just, to me, a very sort of. I don't want to compare him to Frank Lampard. I don't, but he's that sort of player that you can just see. He's got everything. There's not much that, unless he has a really bad downhill of a career, there's no way. And I do think he'll stay at Chelsea as well, because I was speaking offline to someone and they said he might move, someone might come in for him. I think he's Chelsea through and through. I think he loves the club that much. He would probably stay and see his career out there as well. But yeah, his goals, his assists, the way that he plays, off the ball movement as well. He's just one of these players that just has everything about him, and you don't really see that in young footballers anymore. It's more they've got a bit of trickery, or we see a Phil Foden. People talk about Jack Grealish, but I'm a bit sort of up and down with him. But Phil Foden, Mason Mount, they're the players that you can just see they've got the quality, and they're not really going to lose that. You know, you'd have to be really stupid to lose that quality. It's just something you've got. So he's my number one. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get voted Player of the Year. I was surprised he didn't. I don't know if you watched the Monday Night Football yesterday with Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville, but neither had Mason Mount in their team.
I was very surprised by that. Really, really surprised.
They've both, banged on about him all season. I'm trying to think of the teams now, but surely you've got to have Mason Mount in there. It just didn't make sense to me, but he makes mine. He'd make my team of the season, Premier League team of the season as well, because he's that good.
Agree. And I think when we looked at him last season, we spoke about it maybe more, a kid, maybe a lot of people called him a kid, which he was maybe at the time, whereas now far from a kid. He looks just like, well, I don't want to say the complete player, but he looks like, worthy of those comparisons, maybe to Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as a box-to-box midfielder, but more of, that type of player that kind of has Chelsea bleeding through him, And as you said, I don't
the leader.
Leader, exactly. And I don't see him. I don't see him moving anywhere kind of anytime soon. And I think he will stay at Chelsea for the rest of his career. Obviously, maybe he was a boyhood Portsmouth fan, so that may play a part, when he leaves Chelsea. If he does leave Chelsea, maybe he'll want to retire at Portsmouth.
Yeah.
But no, I think, future captain for us. He's captained us a few times in the FA Cup this season. So it's really, really exciting times for both Chelsea fans and England fans to have, a player like Mason Mount, and obviously, maybe paired alongside Phil Foden at the Euros this summer. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah, and I know I've said it on here before, but I'm going to say it again. We've got to give Frank Lampard the credit for that, because, a lot of the work pre-Chelsea as well, when he was at Derby, he did a lot of that, and fair play to him, because he brought him back into Chelsea fold. He put him into the team. He did put his arm around him, and he needed that at that point, I think, as well, because of the age that he was. But he's definitely come on leaps and bounds. And like you said earlier, I think Southgate will build the team around a Mason Mount for the Euros. I think he'll be the first name that gets put on that team sheet, and I can't really see Mason Mount not playing the games for England. I think he'll be the main point to go to for the team sheet, really.
And while we're praising Frank Lampard, I just wanted to mention as well that I think Tuchel mentioned, Lampard's kind of help, getting out that tricky group stage period. In his today. And how I think we had almost like maybe the Krasnodar home draw. We won every single every single one of our games. So Tuchel's praising Lampard and said that he'll remember this really well, and he's got a lot of respect for Lampard for what he's achieved. So again, kudos to Lampard for that.
Yeah, because we've got to remember we had quite a tough. I mean, say tough, but it was Sevilla was in there. I think trying to think of the teams now.
Sevilla, Rennes, and Krasnodar.
And Krasnodar.
Away trips to Russia, they're never easy.
So. And I'm sure we won 4-0, didn't we? Away to Sevilla as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had a few injuries and suspensions for that game. But when you look at Sevilla now, they're flying high in La Liga. So that was a great away win. Obviously, Olivier Giroud stole the show that night. But kudos to Lampard, and it felt like a very comfortable group stage in the end. But maybe it was.
It was a lot more difficult, I think, than what. I mean, on paper, yes, we should beat those 3 teams. I agree. But you still got to put a team out that can do that, and it's not easy.
No, agree. And even the Rennes games, I think the Olivier Giroud last-minute winner, that's the type of goal that we needed in that game to get the 3 points. But yeah, I think we'll look back on these type of games. If we eventually do win the Champions League, fingers crossed.
Don't jinx it.
No, not jinxing it. But type of games we'll look back on and think, this was our path to the final.
Yeah,
have really, really fond memories of them, and have Lampard on the touchline will be great to see as well.
Yeah, it's just, I know we spoke about it, but it's a shame that he's not obviously still manager, because it'd be a massive achievement. I don't think, if I'm honest, we'd be in the final if Frank Lampard was still there. But it would be such an achievement for him if he was able to guide us to that Champions League as well. It is a shame, and I do think and I said it last week as well, that I do think he'll be back as a manager at Chelsea at some point. So maybe in the future we can have another Champions League dream with Lampard. But yeah, I do think it is a shame, but I'm pretty sure he'll be back at some point.
He'll have a role at Chelsea in the future. I'm confident.
100%. So Mason Mount, Player of the Year. That's who we're going for. So if anyone else wins, I'll be very surprised. That's my final word on that. I think he's leaps and bounds above everyone else. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him next season because I think he'll improve even more.
Yeah, it's the type of player that you just look at him and you think he's oozing more confidence and will only get better with time. So it's really, really exciting and promising times for Chelsea fans.
Now you've mentioned, obviously we spoke about the FA Cup, and you've also spoken about the Champions League final. So I think we do need to speak about penalties, the dreaded P word. Who would be your 5 penalty takers in terms of, in the order that you'd want them to be taken as well?
So should the FA Cup or the Champions League final go to a penalty shootout, who are the 5 players I would pick to take the penalties?
Yeah.
I think I'd have Georginio going fast. The reason why I'd want him to go fast is because he's got that quite unique way of taking penalties, and that would just, my heart would not be able to cope with that. Should he be like 3rd or 4th,
I won't be watching.
I have hid behind the sofa a few times while he's taken them, but overall, he does. I think he's got quite a decent success rate with his penalties.
I think he's only missed 1, hasn't he, or 2? I think he's only missed 1 or 2.
He missed against Liverpool and Arsenal, I think, this season. But I think last season he hadn't missed 1. And yeah, so I'd have him first, and he does have that experience taking them, and I think he is the type of player, like he does say that he chooses where he slots it based on where the keeper moves. But I think he does study goalkeepers as well and where they're likely to go, or maybe where they're likely to go and maybe go the other way based on his movement. So I'd have Georginio first. I'd have Verna second, because I think Verna's taken a few. I think in the Champions League he scored against Krasnodar, and I think he scored 2 against Rennes penalties.
Yeah.
And, I think he was taking them for Leipzig as well. Scored in Champions League against Tottenham for Leipzig from the penalty spot. I'm going to name some defenders, actually. I'd have Aspi. I think Aspi scored a few in his time at Chelsea. And he has that kind of he puts power behind it and cannons it into the roof of the net in the corner. So I'd have Aspi maybe 3rd. I'd have Mason Mount in there. 4th. I think when Georginio wasn't on the pitch, I think he was taking them. I think he scored against the penalty from the penalty spot against Southampton. Hit the post against Tottenham, unlucky to do so in the shootout in the League Cup. But,
the League Cup, yeah.
That's quite easily forgotten now. So I'd have Mount 4th, and call me crazy, but I'd have Rudiger 5th, I think.
Right, okay, wow.
Simply because I think
I could not watch those penalties. The Mason Mount one would throw me, but Rudiger, I'd probably have to go into another. I'd have to turn it off. I couldn't. But I'll hear your views actually first. Why?
Simply because when you look at the Chelsea squad right now, you look at the player that just looks the most confident, the most kind of full of himself on the pitch, and that's Tony Rudiger. The way he runs around the pitch, he kind of tries to wind players up. I think he'd have a bit of stare out with the goalkeeper before he takes his penalty, trying to throw him off somehow. But
for the winning penalty as well.
I maybe have to rethink it for the winning penalty. But I'd have him somewhere in that, maybe along the line of maybe 4th or 3rd or maybe even 5th. I think Mason Mount would be quite iconic to have him as the winning penalty taker. But I'd like to see Tony Rudiger take one. But yeah, I'm confident Tuchel will make the right choices. Kante also a shout. I think he scored in the League Cup against Tottenham a few seasons ago. Havertz maybe as well. I'm not sure if he was taking him for Leverkusen last season, but he's a name. But yeah, I'll stick with those 5 of Georginio, Werner, Mount, Aspi, and Rudiger.
Yeah, mine's not that different, to be honest. It's I would start with Georginio first, and I agree with your reasons. I think the fact that he's our natural penalty taker anyway, it just makes sense to get off on a good start in a penalty shootout. I think once you miss your first one, the pressure's already on you to make sure you don't miss another one. So I think getting off on a good start for penalties is key anyway. My second one would probably be Mason Mount, because I think, again, the way I see penalties, it's more a psychological thing where, it's just 2 men having a psychological battle with each other, really, isn't it? So I think if we was to score the second one, I think then you look at, we can afford to probably miss one, which is why I'd probably throw Kante in there and make Kante take number 3. Not always confident when I think I can't remember which penalties he's taken. I'm sure he's taken a few.
I think
And
it was League Cup
it
semi-finals
was a
against
League Cup,
Tottenham,
wasn't
I
it?
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it wasn't the best of penalties. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was quite a, oh, is it going in or not? One of those kind of moments. So I do vaguely remember that. So I put Kante in there anyway, just in case we do need to maybe miss one, and he's the guy. So I'd put him in there. Timo Verna would be my fourth. Just because, yeah, like you said, I think he was taking him at Leipzig as well, and I think he took some in the Champions League, like you said. My fifth one. This is one where, in fact, I haven't even got one at the moment. I've still struggled.
Yeah.
I'm struggling now to think.
It also depends which players will be on the pitch after extra time. You have to consider that as well.
So I think who I probably would want in there, and I think he would potentially be on at extra time, is Olivier Giroud.
That's a shout. Yeah.
I think he'd be my fifth, and I think that's just because of the experience that he's got. And I think if it was the fact that we were in extra time, Tuchel probably would be looking at him to say, this is your last real game for Chelsea. Almost like a bit of a Drogba, wouldn't it? I'm sure Drogba's last kick was, so it'd be the same sort of thing. Last kick for Chelsea. We're not going to give you a contract, but can you just win us the Champions League? Thanks. And I think he'd love to do that as well. It'd be a nice leave him gift for Chelsea fans as well.
Yeah, I can see Giroud being thrown on in extra time, a type of play that Tuchel would want to put into the game and introduce, to attack, but also defend set pieces with his height. And he did score that fourth goal in Seville, and it was a cracker of a penalty, actually.
Yeah.
Really, really good penalty. So I think if he's on the pitch, he's got to be taking one of the five. I agree.
Yeah, and I think he will. I think it'd be a shame for him not to play in that Champions League final in some capacity, because
he's helped us get there. He's helped us.
Yeah, massively as well. Massively helped us. So I'd like to see him in there. And we don't know, obviously, if he's staying or going. It looks like he's not going to stay. He's 34 now, so is he really going to get another shot at playing at that level of football again? Potentially not. We don't know. Depends where he goes. But I just think if he does leave, what a way to go out. Maybe scoring the winning penalty, having the Champions League, medal thrown around his neck. Thank you, Arsenal. Could do all that again for us. Although Arsenal haven't been in the Champions League, so I probably wouldn't say that. But it would just be a good way to send him off with the Champions League. So he'd be my fifth. And like you said, he deserves it. He's helped us through the hard times when we were sort of relying on Tammy and Olivier to get the goals for us.
Yeah, I think alongside Tiago Silva, Azpilicueta and Kante, those are four players, I think, with Giroud that really deserve a Champions League medal and to lift the trophy based on their age and their experience. But yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you, maybe goalkeeper. Which goalkeeper will be, number 6?
I'd have Mendy. I think I'd stick with Mendy. I was going to ask you the same question actually for the FA Cup. To be honest, I forgot to ask because I've got a feeling he's going to start Kepa on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Kepa's played all our FA Cup games, so he does deserve it to a certain extent. And if I'm honest, when I've seen from penalties this season, when we have faced penalties, I think the way I'd rank it would be Caballero, Kepa, Mendy.
Yeah, 100%.
Caballero, we know what he's capable of winning.
Especially against City.
Especially against City, he knows those players. He knows Aguero. He knows De Bruyne.
Yeah.
But then Kepa as well, he saved a few for us. In Valencia, notably, that really good penalty save.
Yeah.
Penalty shootout against Frankfurt, quite that iconic penalty stop where he stopped it with his knee.
Yeah. It was a good one.
So yeah, maybe a Kepa or Caballero for if it does go to a shootout in at Wembley on Saturday. And I think stick with Mendy maybe in the Champions League final.
Yeah, and that's a good shout. And I think it would be very disrespectful to Kepa to drop him for the final. I think he's the one that helped us get there as well. And to be honest, when he's he's had his little moment out of the team, when he's come back, he looks like a better goalkeeper. I think I've mentioned this before, that he seems like a goalkeeper that's been working on his game off the field, very much like Jordan Pickford. Sometimes I feel like he's done the same at Everton. So I wouldn't be disappointed to see him in the team on Saturday. I think he'll do really well.
He seems a lot more commanding and a lot more confident coming out.
So confidence.
Picking up balls. And so, I think he deserves to start on Saturday. And cup final though with Kepa, we know happened last time. But yeah, he deserves it. He deserves it.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'd definitely stick with Mendy for the Champions League. I couldn't watch a game with Kepa in goal for the Champions League. I like him, but I don't like it that much to ruin the season for us. So you can have the FA Cup final. But yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting. I'm going to think where we are now. So it's an interesting 3 weeks, isn't it? 2 or 3 weeks. Big games coming up. So yeah, I'm looking forward to obviously the FA Cup final more than anything for the next couple of days. But beating Arsenal, if we can beat Arsenal, win the FA Cup final, and then I think we've got Leicester again, then haven't we? Not
Tuesday,
the Tuesday. So and then obviously big game Aston Villa. So yeah, I think if we can get through the next 10 days or so, I'm sure recording this podcast is going to be brilliant for us as well.
Starting with a win tomorrow, and we can hopefully be more confident in the next couple of games and enjoy just recording every episode of this.
Definitely, I agree. So I think we're going to wrap that one up for today. It's been obviously good to catch up, Theo, because I feel like we haven't done one for a while. I think we did one. Feels strange, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's obviously good to catch up and talk all things Chelsea. So as always, you can follow us from the Shed End on Twitter and on Instagram. On Instagram, it's an underscore between each word. I am going to look at changing that because I think it'd be a lot easier rather than me having to say that every week. But so yeah, follow us, give us a like, a comment, interact with us as much as you can. As I always mention, Theo does a lot of work on both the social accounts, Instagram and Twitter. So interact with us both, and I'm sure you'll you'll enjoy what we put up there over the next couple of weeks. A couple of trophies, hopefully, a couple of parades if we're allowed to do them. Sounds like Boris is relaxing a few things. So yeah, you've been listening to From the Shed End with myself, T. Dot, and Theo. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, guys.